Welcome to the Rural Recharge, a podcast of the Florida Farm Bureau Federation. Rural Recharge is a guided conversation that allows you to cut through the noise and multitude of information out there. You should be able to trust your sources, which is why we're a platform that comes straight from the source, the farmers and ranchers growing what we eat, wear, and use every day. Our guest joining us today is Mr. Jim Alderman, an organic vegetable farmer in South Florida. Mr. Alderman is unique in that most of his farm is certified organic and most of the produce stays local within the state of Florida. Mr. Alderman is a longtime friend of Farm Bureau and a finalist for the 2025 Florida Farm Bureau Farmer of the Year. Mr. Alderman, thank you for being with us today.
I'm really glad to be here. Thank you for coming down from Hastings. I appreciate you coming to see part of sunny South Florida.
Well, I appreciate it.
You'll get to appreciate some of the problems we have here with the development and traffic. It's very difficult to farm in this area.
You're exactly right there. It took a little longer than I anticipated. How long have you been here, Mr. Alderman, in Palm Beach County?
Since 1970.
1970. What brought you to Palm Beach County?
Well, graduated from the University of Florida, degree in agriculture. Went to work for a agricultural chemical company in Pompano Beach, sold fertilizer in this area for about 4 years. And that's how I ended up in South Florida. I went to work for one of my growers, farmed beans for about 5 years, 3,000 acres of green beans in this area. And then I had an opportunity to start my own small farm, which I did. We started with a small U-pick and had a road market, strawberries and tomatoes for many years.
It just kept getting bigger.
Well, it's like, and you've heard this before. It's like working a herd of cattle, This gate opens this way and you go that way, and then the next thing you know, another gate opens over here and you go that way, and then another gate, and then sooner or later you end up somewhere. So that's what it is, just from one opportunity to another. We started small and grew from 80 acres to about 1,200 acres right now. And as you said, most of it's organic. We still do some conventional farming, but most all of it is organic.
Tell us a little bit about, a lot of our folks that are listening may not know where you are exactly in the state, what your soil type's like, and what your water's like too, and how you drain and things like that. Tell us a little bit about, we're in Palm Beach County, and tell us a little bit about your soil types, etc.
We're in eastern Palm Beach County. We're located to the west of us is Everglades. To the east of us is the Atlantic Ocean, with the Gulf Stream coming fairly close during the winter, which keeps us probably the warmest place in the state. Typically, we're warmer than any other place in the state in a freeze time. We're very fortunate to be part of the Lake Worth Drainage District, which maintains the water in our canals, and they have 500 miles of right-of-way and canals within Palm Beach County. They maintain a water table, and we're able to pump out of their canals into our rim ditch and our farm. And then when it rains, we're able to pump from our farm back into their water system. They are a very well-run government agency with all the latest technology, with SCADA on all their locks, and they can open gates and crank pumps with electronically from some dashboard, somebody's pickup truck, or in the office, either way. So we've saved a lot of water. They save tremendous amounts of water because they can, if one area is low on water, they can let it go that way instead of letting it go off the tide and pumping it out to the ocean, which we used to do when a storm came. We just lower the water everywhere and boom, gone. And then we have to pump it back. So we're conserving tremendous amounts of water. They are very well organized and stay on top of the weather conditions. For an example, when Milton came in the other day, we had already lowered canals in Palm Beach County. So we very, very seldom, if ever, someone floods out. It's something that was developed actually farmers and developers developed a system in 1917 So it's been around a long time and it works. Our soil types here are probably the best soil types for growing vegetables. They're the mineral soil, sandy soil, well drained. Have a hard pan down there, but this is well drained soils, and they grow vegetables very well. It's it's a pleasure to be able to farm in this part of Florida compared to other areas where water control and temperature and I mean it's bad enough with hurricanes and other freezes. We have enough problems with diseases and insects and all those things are a tremendous problem in this area because of the where we're located and we don't have a cold winters to kill off a lot of the insects and pests. So we're fortunate to be in Palm Beach County. We grow the finest vegetables that you can ever find. Our quality is second to none. You know, one of the things I've always been told, and I try to tell my people, there's no substitute for quality. People will remember that good tomato. They'll forget the price they paid, but they'll remember a bad tomato too. So you've got the quality is number one to make sure we send the finest produce from this packing.
And not only you're a farmer, you're a good salesman. I can tell you, a second to none.
We have to be.
Now, so you talk about you've had some pests and diseases, but you do a majority of your production is organic. Tell us about the challenges behind that, but also why did you choose to go into organic production with those kinds of challenges in South Florida?
Those are good questions. The challenges are tremendous, not only the weather, but the insects and diseases. We have learned over the years and worked with the university to develop biological controls that actually are now, some of those biological controls are now in practice in the commercial, conventional vegetable industry. We found one fungi by accident on eggplant. My son called me and said, "Dad, you need to get up here. Eggplants are just full of aphids." So you look at the backside of a leaf. If you've grown eggplants, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir.
And it's just covered with aphids. So about 10 days later, he called me, "Dad, you need to come up here and look at this. This is crazy. There's no aphids. They're just skeletons. They're all dead." So we got somebody from the university to come look at it, and it's a fungus or fungi that was killing the aphids. So we figured out how to make that fungus, and we were going to try to get production and thought we hit the jackpot. Well, about the same time we figured it out, one of the major organic, call them organic chemical companies, came out with the same product in a 5-pound bag. So it was it was already in the works when we discovered it. But we thought we we did discover something. But that practice is being used, that product's being used today, conventional. There are a lot of challenges out there, not only with the weather, but where we are. You know, every few years we get a new insect or disease that comes in from, we're too close to the ports and too close to Miami International. The recent one was the new thrip that came in here 2 years ago that destroyed tremendous amounts of pepper crops. We think it came in probably from the floral industry, but we don't have any proof of that, but we're stuck with it now. And that happens all the time with new diseases, new insects. It's something we have to work with every day to try to. There's a lot of biological controls out there that we need to spend more money on research in that area. Get in those swamps and find out why that old seedling grapefruit tree really looks good out in the middle of a cypress head or an oak hammock somewhere. And I've seen it. I know people that have been out in the woods to see an old sour orange in the middle of an oak hammock, and it's clean, and a grapefruit, sour as can be, but it's got no melanose on it, no disease or anything on it. So there's a lot of stuff out in those swamps that we just need to search and find more bacteria for controls of some of the diseases that we have. What was the rest of that question?
Well, you have a lot of challenges. I mean, in disease, you've got pests, you've got weed control, and you've got nematodes. And I mean, I've grown some pesticide free. I was not certified organic, but I can tell you, it was a challenge for us, and especially on the herbicide side of things, weeds or weed control in a larger volume production model is very, very challenging. How do you handle weeds in your organics?
There are no herbicides, so it's a lot of hand labor,
That's right.
Weeding. The pepper, tomatoes, squash, we plant on plastic.
Sure.
So, but the weed in the plant hole, there's going to be weeds, and you got to pull it out by hand. We do a lot of cultivation, mechanical cultivating in the alleys. We recently looked at a laser weeder, which is it's been around a couple of years, but it's something I really, really want to get sooner or later, because it really does a great job. It's just a lot of money to put out there at one shot. We're still debating about whether to get it, but there's going to be more and more AI inventions that come out that are going to really help agriculture, and that's one of the big ones right there. We spend a lot of money weeding, spend a lot of money on hand labor.
Right.
As you know, the labor costs keep going up every year. And the availability of labor is another problem. We've had to go to H-2A labor. It's expensive labor, expensive housing them, and all the other aspects of bringing in H-2A labor. So we just need to find more inventions that will help us in agriculture.
Technology is going to be critical too.
It is. Technology is a big thing. It's a great big deal. It's just going to get stronger and stronger. We need more research, more companies that are doing the work that laser weeder is doing. It's phenomenal, the work they've done. It's unbelievable. You see that machine, how it works. It just can't. It's something out of science fiction. Somebody my age doesn't talk about big. So it's the real deal. Anyway.
But tell us a little bit about production here. When do you start planting? What do you start planting? And when do you finish up and wrap up?
We start planting about the 1st of September every year. Crops that we plant are our main crop is tomatoes, a vine ripe tomato. And we grow a grape tomato and a Roma tomato. Roma tomatoes have kicked off pretty strong this past couple of years, so we're going to increase the production of Romas. We grow a lot of vegetables. We grow zucchini squash, yellow squash, cucumber, eggplant. What else have I missed? And we grow a lot of cilantro and dill and parsley and those items.
So let's talk about tomatoes. You're involved in the production of tomatoes. I was involved in production of potatoes for a long time. I mean, Phytophthora, late blight, alternaria, early blight can be a real challenge. And
named them all.
Oh my! And I sweat thinking about how to even control a fungus. Here, Mr. Alderman, you were talking about using a fungus to destroy an aphid, and then here we are. We're talking about a fungus that'll destroy a tomato plant. How do you control Phytophthora and alternaria in tomatoes?
Can't.
Oh.
Phytophthora is a bad one, especially in squash. Yellow squash is real susceptible to it. And we try to rotate land.
Right.
Okay, we rotate as much as we possibly can to not plant the same crop back on the same piece of land every year. But Phytophthora is a major problem. Some of the diseases, been working with a tomato breeder, and he's come up with some pretty good stuff as far as resistance, tomato plants that are resistant to some of the diseases, which is the answer to most of our problems. He doesn't have it all, but he's got a lot of it. I think he's got late blight in there. He doesn't have early blight. He's got crown rot. He's got a lot of things that are built into it that he can breed into the plant and still have a really beautiful, red, delicious, sweet tomato that you expect. Our tomatoes, I'll say again, you can bring tomatoes from New York or New Jersey and all your homegrown tomatoes and put them up against mine, and I'll beat you every time.
I like the challenge. I'd like to try that. That's good. So you start planting about 1st of September, and you'll go into, how far will you go into planting?
We'll go into the 1st of June on most crops. We'll finish up about the 1st of June. Last week in May, maybe sometimes the last 2 weeks in May, but we'll finish that. Our season's pretty long window. We plant every 3 weeks, rain or shine. If our customers rely on us those months, so we can't. It's not like some farms you plant and then somebody sells your product and you plant another crop 2 months later. We've got to be consistent and have product the whole time, whole season. We've got to have tomatoes and squash. The items we sell are our chain stores, we must have those every day. So it's a real challenge with the weather conditions to have the product, do our best.
One of the things too, Mr. Alderman, that I know we have a trouble with is nematodes. And you all have nematodes here in Palm Beach County, and if so, how do you take care of that? What is it? Maybe people don't even know what a nematode is.
What is a nematode? It's a microscopic soil-borne worm type. I don't know if it's an insect, what it is, but anyway, it attacks the root system, which galls up the roots. Depending on what, there's many different kinds of nematodes, but the bad ones are the root knot and the sting. There's several bad ones. But what do we do for it? This goes back to what we used to do 50 years ago. We flood our fields and keep them underwater for at least 6 weeks during the summer.
Oh, wow.
So instead of keeping them with some crops, we alternate with a cover crop. We plant a lot of cover crop, and we try to flood it for at least 6 weeks. So that helps maintain nematodes. The other thing we use crab meal in our fertilizer. Crab meal has chitins and chitinase, and you'll have to talk to my son to get the exact how that works on nematodes. But it actually feeds the bacteria that are naturally in the soil that attack the nematodes and get around their mouth parts where they can't eat. That starves them and their eggs also. So that's been a big help. We worked with the university a few years ago, developing the right rates. Jimmy was working hand in hand to determine how much. We knew that crab meal might work, so we tried it, and then we had to find out what rate worked. So he did a lot of experiments with the university, and they found the rates that are still using today. So it really works. It's amazing how well it does work. It's something. It's a good practice. It's all, we've gotten away from using chemicals as much as we possibly. Well, we don't use any chemicals in organic, but we found substitutes for them. Years ago, we would go out and spray product that would it'd kill everything, kill the good, the beneficials, the good insects, the bad insects, kill everything. Today, we don't. We scout and then try to find the biological control to spray to kill that insect. We do spray, but it's a biological control. If you see our spray rigs running in the field, it's putting some kind of biological control out there.
You probably use a lot of that in your conventional side too, don't you?
We have learned it's a whole lot cheaper going this way than it is with harsh chemicals. Sure. When we first started growing organics, we had a source of ladybugs. It was really neat. You should have been here then, because we'd released 2 million ladybugs. And it was neat just letting them fly around and watching them, land on a tomato plant. And next thing you know, they're eating an aphid. They're gobbling down an aphid. So it's a really neat. We didn't want to get away from it, but our supplier died, and we didn't have any more supply of a reasonable price for ladybugs. But it did a job. So we're real protective about our beneficial insects and try to maintain them.
I don't want to seem like I'm talking about all the problems, but I know one of the ones I had was white flies too. Do you have any issues with white flies? And if so, how do you control them?
White flies are a major problem, probably our biggest problem, especially if you're farming next to someone that just finished a crop and let it hang around for another 3 or 4 weeks, and white fly builds up and comes in on you. There's only one control I can tell you that we have, and it's soap.
Right.
So we use soap, and it gets on their wings and kills them. But I've had a situation, not in this state. We tried growing in Georgia, in South Georgia. We were spraying 3 times a day, and the white flies were so bad you couldn't. It was next to a peanut field, and we just couldn't control the white flies. No matter what we did, we couldn't control them. So we didn't stay there but 1 year.
They were so bad. I had them so bad, Mr. Alderman, in a cotton patch that Daddy and I grew, that we started on one end of the field with the white flies with a spray coop, and by the time we got to the other end, we had to go and clean out the radiator. They were that bad. And that's why I know it's got to be a challenge. And when I was in university, we discovered soap was one of the best things to control them. But and that is that is definitely an organic. You can apply organically labeled soap and use it. And that's just a neat thing about the organic side is y'all are doing some things that even in the conventional realm will be very useful.
A lot of things we do, people are following conventionally. And hopefully it'll go all that way. I mean, there's no sense in going out and killing every insect in the field. Just be specific, target that insect, not go for everything. We're doing a good job with that.
So one of the things, we talked about a little bit about labor, and you have a lot of labor, a lot of challenges there. But you also got good labor too. You've got family that's working here on the farm. And tell us a little bit about the structure and how your son's here on the farm and working with you.
My son graduated from Florida Southern College in Lakeland. When he came to work for us, he brought a lot with him. He brought this organic program with him. And the challenges of that, he solved, not me, he solved most of the problems. We saw an opportunity that we knew we can't compete with big growers, big tomato farmers or pepper growers. We found a little niche that we could fit into, and that's what we've done. We saw an opportunity, maybe a little bit of prices, but not the yields. But he's been instrumental in working for. Jimmy handles all of our farming operation, and we couldn't do, our operation wouldn't survive without it. Other than that, I have some of the best people you could ever imagine working for me. I've got tractor drivers that have been with me 30 years, 35 years. They're the best people in the world. And today, my job is so much easier than it was 20 years ago because they all know what to do. All of a sudden, we got repetitious growing the same crops. So they know what to do, how to manage it. I've got the best help anybody could have. My office help is fantastic. The mechanic is great. Everybody on my payroll is doing it. Truck drivers, we have to haul our own freight to our different. We've got great truck drivers. We got good people everywhere. I don't have one. There's not one on my payroll that I say that he needs to go. They're all fantastic people. They have good families. Very fortunate to have the people working for us that we do.
Well, there must be some reciprocal work there that you're a good person to work for. And I can assure you that when I step on these grounds, they appreciate Jim Alderman a lot, and you can tell that. And it's a blessing to have some longevity, some stability, some vision, and I know those employees appreciate that as well.
Thank you. I think they do. They're all good. Trying to do the best we can.
Let's talk a little bit about marketing. I mean, this is a unique thing, and where can people find your products?
Years ago, I decided the only way I could survive was market my own produce. So years ago, I'd work in the morning and sell the product, and in the afternoon, we'd pick and pack it, load it, and take it to the Pompano market and had a broker sell it for us. I learned that if I handle my own sales, I was one person I could answer to, and that's myself. So I couldn't complain about the prices I got. It was, it was the best I could do. So we made a decision way back that we would have our own sales force. And I do to this day. We have, my nephew works for me. He just graduated from the University of Florida 2 years ago. So he came in, stepped in, and doing a fantastic job. Young. So we got to have young people stepping in if we're going to continue this operation. We can't have a bunch of old people like me. We got to have that young blood in here. We got it now. Where can you buy our produce? We sell to a lot of different chain stores. Publix is probably our number one account. You can find our tomatoes and grape tomatoes in Publix. We also sell Sprouts in Florida. Walmart we sell in Florida. We have other Wakefern, Ahold. There are a lot of different chains that we sell. Sure. We don't just limit it to the state of Florida. Let's call it, we're strong in the northeast, from here to Florida to the northeast.
Sure, absolutely.
So we're always looking for more customers, always trying to grow our business. That's our goal.
Do you do your own packaging, and is it under your label?
Yes, Alderman Farms label. We do everything. We don't farm anything out. We grow it, pack it, We sell it, we transport it, we package it. We have one room downstairs, I'll show you, it's a cut room where we package squash and pepper, cucumber, tray pack. We also tray pack some corn when we have it. So it's fresh. The beauty about buying from us, it's going to know it's fresh. It's picked today, packed this afternoon, cool tonight, shipped tomorrow. So it's in your store that's sometimes 24 hours old. If you're buying from Mexico, it may be 5 days old, 6 days old. So if you know that if you buy something with our label on it, an Alderman Farms label, it's going to be fresh. If it's not, I'll give you my phone number. You call me. We'll find out why it's not fresh. So we can't control the stores. Sometimes they don't display it properly and hold it too long, whatever. That's not our fault. But we try to keep the freshest produce available. Those are the outlets you can buy it in. We also sell some food service and some independent stores. So we have a list of customers, pretty long list.
I can tell you what, I'm going to emphasize it. At Alderman Farms, its quality is second to none. That's what's selling. Its quality is what you're keyed on. You have quality employees, you have a quality product, and quality service to that consumer that they can count on consistently.
That's right, every day.
We got, what are your thoughts? And one of the questions that we had sent out before, I think I'm going to ask this one, is what are your thoughts on the push to shop local and support local farmers? And with Thanksgiving coming up, how can our listeners be mindful of this?
Well, I'd like to ask your listeners to please buy fresh from Florida. Fresh from Florida doesn't mean just produce. It's seafood, it's beef. Try to buy things that were grown in the state of Florida. And if you see a product you know that is in season that Florida growers grow, and you see it in a grocery store that it's from Mexico, you need to ask that produce manager, why do you have this? You could be buying this from a Florida grower. There's no citizens from Mexico coming and shopping in the grocery stores in Florida.
Right.
Okay. I have 200-300 people that work for me, and they all shop in grocery stores in Florida. So please try to support the local, fresh from Florida, Florida-grown produce. It'll mean a lot to us. There's a lot of people live in the state now.
That's right.
I don't think they all understand that we actually farm here in Florida. That's another thing we need to toot our horns and tell everybody there are plenty of fresh vegetables grown here in Palm Beach County and over on the West Coast and Central Florida. They're growing so many strawberries up around Plant City now. I can't imagine. I've never seen so many berries.
That's exactly.
You know, you used to be a strawberry farm with 10 or 20 acres. Now those men have 400 or 500 acre strawberry farms, which I've never. It's crazy how much has changed in the last 20 years. But as far as the consumer buying Florida produce, I would ask them to please, talk to your produce manager if they don't have something. As you all know, there's certain things we don't grow in Florida, so don't be looking for artichoke grown in Florida or asparagus grown in Florida. So you got to kind of know a little bit about what you're asking. But if you see zucchini or green beans or corn, ask them why you don't get the stuff from Florida. Strawberries, they get such a big strawberry industry here in Florida. We need to support our growers. It's a national food safety problem. We just need to support the Florida farms. You'll get good, clean produce. And that's another thing that we haven't touched on is our food safety here with my farm. We have a full-time food safety person, and her job is to go around, inspect and test and send off samples of everything we got every day to make sure that nothing goes out of this packing house. We overly cautious about food safety. We want to make sure that it's clean produce coming from this packing house. As I said earlier, I don't know if we talked about that, but we pick and pack here. Someone else doesn't do. If we have a crew that picks it, we truck it here to the packing house, we pack it here, we cool it. Sometimes if it's overwrapped, we through our cut room, package it, deliver it on a truck tomorrow morning. So that's our process. We're in a new facility. We built this about 4 years ago. with some of the finest packing equipment and use a lot of computers, electronic eyes to help sort tomatoes and pepper and things. And it helps save some labor, but it helps us a lot.
Helps you on your quality.
It does.
Yes, sir.
Really
And you're vertically integrated. You go from production to the packing side to the transportation side. All of that's all under one roof.
That's right.
That's right. And that helps you, and definitely from a safety standpoint, definitely helps you to control it from beginning to end. And now, when it gets to the shelf, you don't have any control there, and that can be a challenge too in and of itself. But what a powerful thing to go from beginning to end.
Yeah, putting a seed in the ground, having that tomato come out of the other end is it's exciting.
It is, absolutely. Yeah, I think some of our folks, they're getting ready to get excited to go look for Alderman Farms right there in the grocery store and see if they can find it. Mr. Alderman, we've talked about a lot of different things. There are a lot of different challenges in this industry. And I mean, I'm driving into your place. It's definitely different from leaving Hastings, Florida, where the traffic is minimal and the population is definitely not as dense as it is here in Palm Beach County. To come down here, pull in your driveway, it's a different realm. We've talked about diseases. We've talked about pests. We've talked about labor, market, and all those different things. But what would you say is the number one challenge to Alderman Farms or other farms in Palm Beach County today?
There are a lot of challenges, and that's a great question and kind of hard to answer because it's hard to rate them 1, 2, and 3. But I'll tell you what our challenges are. Our biggest challenge, I think, is imported produce from Mexico. It kills our market. We can't compete with them. There's not a level playing field. When we're paying the price that we're paying for labor, and it's ridiculous compared to what the price that a worker in Mexico is, and the other subsidies that the government subsidizes them with a lot of things.
That's right.
Trust me, I don't want government stepping in to help us at all, but if they could control the border and control the produce coming in here, I don't think it's inspected enough. But anyway, they're killing us with prices. I'd say that's one big challenge. Another challenge is development, real estate development, whether it be a residential community or commercial. And you see it across the state. So many groves now are solar farms.
Right.
The electrical companies are taking big chunks of land, turning it into solar farms, and it's all over the state. That's a big challenge. Is the real estate development, whether it be solar farms or residential communities. They're some of the best farmland in the world is right here, and there's a challenge to keep it here. One thing about it, I've never seen anybody push a residential community up to plant beans on.
Yes, sir.
So it's once a house goes on it, you'll never farm it again. And it's important to maintain some agriculture, some farmland in South Florida because it's the winter produce capital of the world, or was. We have the climate, we have the soil, we have the water, we've got everything anybody want. Now so it's very competitive to try to maintain a farm in this climate. The other thing that's really a big challenge is, let's call it inflation. The prices have gone, since COVID, everything has gone up probably an average of 40%.
That's right.
Whether it be labor, fertilizer, plastics, everything we touch has gone up. And that's a real challenge because our customers don't want to pay us any more than what the levels were at COVID. And it's just impossible to maintain, profitability with the low margins and what inflation has just eaten away at any of the profits we may have had. So those are the 3 biggest things that I can think of. And there are more challenges out there, but I think those are the biggest ones.
Trade, development, and inflation. And yet, trade, you have an advantage in that you control it from seed to the very end. And folks can have that confidence that you're growing a product that's safe. We don't know what's coming in from a foreign country. There aren't enough inspections. Your product, we know because you have it, you handle it, and it is inspected. It is understood to be a quality product because of the protocol that you go through, especially in regard to food safety. Folks can have confidence that what Jim Alderman is growing is safe and it will be affordable in a realm that you can compete in. and it is absolutely abundant. You're doing it year round.
That's correct.
Absolutely. I'm trying to sell it now, but he's got me sold on it. That's for sure. Is there anything that you'd like to leave with our listeners today? One last thing you'd like to leave with them?
Well, let's put it this way. When I first came down to graduate from the University of Florida, land was getting tight then. They have no idea compared Palm Beach, Broward County. There are a lot of farms in Broward County. There's not any today. Is agriculture going to be here years from now? I think it is. It's going to be here somewhere. There are enough young people. You don't think there are, but there are enough young people getting in it. And let's pray that they can continue to make a living at it, because it's a great industry. It's a great asset to the state, creates a lot of jobs, creates a lot of revenue that the public in Palm Beach County or in Florida don't realize. We're not an agricultural community anymore. So we need more people tooting their horn to tell the story about agriculture. Because Farm Bureau does the best job of anybody I know. And if we're getting toward the end of this conversation, I need to thank a few people.
Please do. Absolutely.
There's some people that work for Farm Bureau that if, let's put it this way, if they didn't take an interest in me, I wouldn't be here today. One is John Walt Boatwright, the finest young man you could ever meet. He has done one heck of a job for Florida Farm Bureau.
Amen.
And he is doing that now for American Farm Bureau.
Sure.
John Walt will take your phone call anytime.
Amen.
Eva Webb has done a great job for us here in Palm Beach County. She's helped me get involved in Farm Bureau. And Sam Ferris, you couldn't find anybody finer than her that worked for Farm Bureau. Farm Bureau's got the best staff. A lot of growers don't understand what Farm Bureau does, but the lobbying that they do in Tallahassee and in Washington is phenomenal. Just go to Washington, D.C. with John Walt Boatwright. He knows everybody, and the door is wide open in every one of those senators' offices. He does a fantastic job, and I just can't thank Farm Bureau and those people enough for getting me involved. Sometimes it takes, you get busy and you don't think, or you get somebody that says, well, will you do this? Well, yeah, I'll do, yeah. So you need that person to kind of nudge you a little bit. Right. And I say Eva Webb and Sam and John Walt have done that for me, and I appreciate their help. It's been a real honor for me to be here today with you. I think it's just a great honor to be nominated for this award. I'm humbled. I just can't thank Farm Bureau enough for having this program, and we'll see how it comes out. But I just want to thank you. I think Farm Bureau is the best organization out there for agriculture.
Talk to us just a little bit about that as you're wrapping things up. You're up for the Florida Farm Bureau 2025 Farmer of the Year. How do you feel going through the process, potentially being selected? What does that mean to you and to your farm?
To me, it would be like an exclamation mark at the end of your career. For our farm, I think it would be great publicity for our farm to know that our owner had this honor. I just think it's just the potential, the idea of being selected. Whether I'm selected or not, it's irrelevant. But just nominated for this position means a lot to our farm, people that work for me. I have been real public about telling people that because but it's to be selected will mean a lot to our organization. I think a big morale builder for everybody, and I think it'll help our customers realize they're dealing with somebody's got the best tomatoes in the state.
I can see the packaging changing now. I got one last question for you, Mr. Alderman. How many podcasts have you been on?
Sir, this is my first, and this is probably my last.
I don't believe that for a moment. I can tell you what, you did an outstanding job today. I think you were a little bit nervous about it, but you did an outstanding job, Mr. Alderman.
Thanks for coming down Hastings. It's a long way. I'll say this, Farm Bureau goes out of the way for this Farm of the Year program. For the judges to come down, those three gentlemen that came down here, and they're top flight, man. For you to come down to do this, it takes time out of your schedule. But I appreciate what you're doing, and hopefully we can help. Anything we can do for Farm Bureau, we're here to do it.
Well, thank you for your time. It's a pleasure to be able to be here, be at your facility, be with you and your people and meet some folks. And we appreciate you. We love you. Thank you for all that you're doing. And congratulations on being a finalist for the 2025 Florida Farm Bureau Farmer of the Year. It has been a pleasure to speak with you today, Mr. Alderman, and I know our folks will really enjoy it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for supporting the Rural Recharge podcast. We hope that you're enjoying these conversations brought to you by farmers for our neighbors. While you're here, please consider giving us a rating or review. It really helps us to continue to share the story of our Florida farm families and their important impact on our local communities. Thank you.